I have hiked in the extreme cold, and when I mean extreme, when I say extreme, talk about negative 30 degrees. It was very awesome. I went up Overlook Mountain. At the base of the mountain, it was negative 5. Of course, you moved up with a little bit more wind, it got colder, and at the top of the mountain, it said negative 30 degrees. So definitely awesome time. Once again, stunning hike that I will never forget. Welcome to Inside the Line, the Catskills. All right, I am live. Welcome everyone to Inside the Line, the Catskills. This is episode 8, and it's going to be about preparing for winter hiking. It's that time of year, so we got to start talking about that stuff. I would like to thank our sponsor, Scenic Route Guiding. If you need any help with guiding in any of the peaks in the Adirondacks or Catskills, get a hold of Scenic Route Guiding. And Sarah, thank you once again donating to the show and being a sponsor. I'd like to also thank Katrina Weerig for donating to the show. Katrina, once again, if you can get a hold of me, I'd like to thank you personally. So, not having anything to drink it tonight. I got home from work about 2 hours ago, so I'm running around the house doing stuff. I thought I might as well make a little recording. So, previous hikes, I went up Warner Creek up to Plateau Mountain the other day. Absolutely stunning day. Beautiful weather. It was 65, 70 degrees. It was windy in some certain spots, and it was just absolutely stunning fall weather. That section was my first time doing that section, and I think that is my favorite section in the Catskills now because it just has everything that you would want. It's very long. Total, not even going to the summit of Plateau, was 8.4 miles, but it has everything from like an old dirt road to regular hiking trail to going in between ledges up into beautiful balsam forest, back into a regular good old birch forest, and then back up to a balsam forest again. So it was beautiful and great time with my friend John. Just enjoyed every minute of it, and it was stunning. Let me just say, it was absolutely stunning. What a day. On one side of the mountain, we had 40 to 50 mile per hour gust. It was a little chilly and stuff. We had to layer up once in a while. On the other side, it was no wind at all, and we were drenching in our own sweat, and we had to rip those layers off. So it was definitely a different kind of day, but a beautiful fall day. And that hike made me think about winter hiking. So to get everybody, we need to get in gear and think about winter hiking now, because it was getting cold, and then soon we might have our first frost. So yeah, Warner Creek, check it out. Very beautiful hike. Parking situation was a little bit difficult. They made a couple pull-offs, and there's a certain spot that you'll see a sign when you go up that you can't park past. So before the bridge, or before and after the bridge, they have little pull-offs that you can park there. So definitely check it out. So tonight, once again, we'll be talking about preparing for winter hiking. I'll give you some of my tips, some of my experiences, some of my gear, all that stuff to help you out with winter hiking. Maybe soon or sometime later, I'll have one of my friends who is a very big winter hiker, and he also does the winter get-together for the Catskill 3500 Club. Hopefully I'll have him in here sometime as well. So yeah, let's get on to some Catskills history, eh? All right, so Catskill history tonight is about a gangster's buried treasure here in the Catskills. Yes, legend has it that the Catskill town of Phoenicia conceals a trove of money, bonds, and jewels that once belonged to a New York City bootlegger named Dutch Schultz. The criminal's riches have been hunted for nearly 90 years. Colorfully known as the Beer Baron of the Bronx, Schultz made a fortune in the 1920s selling suds during Prohibition, when alcoholic beverages were illegal across the United States. Born Arthur Simon Fleigenhammer in 1902 and raised in a slummy Bronx neighborhood, Schultz, along with his thugs, made a lucrative trade from hawking banned booze, even though their brew was known for being the most horrendous tasting stuff in town. Sounds like some of my friends' stuff when they first tell me to try it. Chalk up the gangster's success to having convincing a sales spiel. His partner Joey Noe and him were extremely brutal, as they would go to speakeasies and threaten to beat the crap out of people who didn't buy their beer. One salon owner, Joe Rock, foolish enough to refuse, got hung by his thumbs. A rag dipped in gonorrhea sore was placed over his eyes. It eventually blinded him. After his probation ended in 1933, Schultz padded his overflowing coffers even more by strong-arming racketeers in Harlem and forcing them to cut him as his partner. But New York State prosecutor Thomas E. Dewey, later to be governor and failed presidential candidate, vowed to stop his wrongdoings. In the wake of fellow gangster Al Capone being found guilty of income tax evasion, Dewey said that Dutch would be imprisoned by similar means. According to a new documentary, it is believed that Schultz, who people said looked like an unemployed clerk, prepared for his takedown by bearing a priceless sum of cash, bonds, and diamonds in the Catskills. To this day, it has never been found. A pair of Canadian treasure hunters, Steve Zazuluk and Ryan Falekis, filmed a show called The Secrets of the Dead Gangster's Gold, and they believed they were closing in on the gangster cash. They maintained that the loot was worth $7 million at the time, and today it is worth about $150 million. Zazuluk said the key person in this hunt is Bruce Alterman, referring to a private investigator who lives in the area and claims to have had a family member who told him stories about Schultz. On the show, Alterman provided recollections of his grandfather that excited the treasure hunters, whose quest had already taken them through a deeply wooded area near Yonkers and a home in Bronxville, which may contain a hidden tunnel used by Schultz. Zazuluk said, Bruce is privy to a lot of private information that you would not mention to very many people, he said. Bruce threaded the story together with timelines detail on how far Dutch and his gang traveled and the roads they took. A revealing article in the 1939 issue of Collier's magazine gave some info about it. In it, the former lawyer of Dutch Schultz recalled a 2-by-3-foot steel-filled box with diamonds, gold coins, and $1,000 bills. Schultz evaded tax-related charges twice and was killed by fellow gang mobsters after he made noise about offing Dewey. Fearing that the murder of a highly placed public official would bring heat on the Big Apple mobsters, a pair of hitmen from Murder Incorporated shot Schultz in the restroom of a Newark chop house that he owned. Schultz died a day later on October 24, 1935. But about 2 hours before he passed, the gangster left an important clue as to the whereabouts of his stash. Schultz said, Lulu, drive me back to Phoenicia, referring to his bodyguard chauffeur. Don't be dope, Lulu. We better get those Liberty bonds out of the box and cash them. A major clue came about one time, a photo touted by Bruce Unterman and offered by the director Tim Trojian, who owns property in the Catskills and concurred with Elizabeth that their grandfather provided muscle for Dutch Schultz. Trojian produced what looks like a very innocuous shot of a wooded area along Stony Clove Creek in Phoenicia, with a car parked nearby. Not one to estimate a potential lead, Fazekas read into the image. He said, people in the 1930s didn't take scenery photos and waste their film, he said. And this is not scenic. It had to mean something. Imitating in the documentary, that is the shot of the burial spot snapped for future reference. He added, my contention is that they transported the heavy steel box and buried it alongside Stony Grove Creek. Alterman said that the picture provides a link like no other. If we can match up the creek in that picture with the present-day location, I will say let's break out the metal detectors. So far, as in 2021, the Canadians have only found 2 1903 gold coins near the creek, so that means the treasure is still yet to be found. Pretty cool stuff. I found a lot of that online through different websites, news reports, and in some different books, so definitely check that out about buried treasure. There was another buried treasure that was somewhere around the Catskills. I don't really remember what it was worth and stuff like that, but it wasn't too long ago that they buried treasure and made a treasure hunt for hundreds and hundreds of people to do. My friend Greg knows about that. Maybe I'll ask him when I interview him next. So let's get on to the topic of the night, preparation for winter hiking. So yeah, it's that time of year again. We've got to start thinking less about summer and definitely more about winter. Like I said the other day, I was hiking and it was really cold in one of the spots and it was really windy and we had to layer up, and I almost thought about putting my winter hat on at the time because the wind was moving so fast that it brought a lot of cold in there, especially in the shaded areas. So I thought, why not do a podcast about winter hiking and preparation for winter hiking and what gear I use and stuff like that. Full disclosure, I'm not a extreme pro at this. I have had several experiences in several different weather types and different means of the winter, so do not take everything I say 100%. Do your own research. Ask people online, look it up on social media, stuff like that. So, once again, I'm not a pro, but I will tell you my experiences when I winter hiked and with also stuff about search and rescue, because search and rescue is very vital in the winter and we need to have the best gear possible to save people. So some of my experiences, my first winter hike was on Panther Mountain. We went when there was a slight chance of snow. It was me and my friend Travis. There was a slight chance of snow, and it ended up snowing about 4 or 5 inches in a matter of 2 hours. So we got lucky on the way to Giant Ledge. It started snowing. We had no view. But that was definitely my first winter hike, and that was one of my favorite hikes because the sound of the wind with the snow falling was just absolutely stunning. It'll be in my mind forever because, number one, it's my first winter hike ever and made me fall in love with winter. I didn't even get a view that day. I have hiked in the extreme cold, and when I mean extreme, when I say extreme, talk about negative 30 degrees. It was very awesome. I went up Overlook Mountain. At the base of the mountain, it was negative 5. As you moved up with a little bit more wind, it got colder, and at the top of the mountain, it said negative 30 degrees. So definitely awesome time. Once again, stunning hike that I will never forget. I went up Westkill with extreme ice. If anybody's ever been up Westkill in the winter, they know that side of the mountain is definitely notorious for ice. Never gets any sun. Always flowing down. It's always steep. So the ice is extreme over there. And that's also one of the times that one of my micro spikes broke, and we had to improvise in fixing it. So I'll tell you that experience later. And I also have gone up Friday Mountain. I bushwhacked up Friday Mountain in different conditions where it was really, really nice at the bottom. It was probably around 50 degrees, but once I got up higher, there was a lot of ice and a lot of tricky areas. So once again, do not underestimate the power of winter. It might be nice down low, but up high, it's definitely a different story. I've hiked several times in the deep snow. Windham High Peak I did in the deep snow. I broke trail myself, which was absolutely horrible. I went up Camel's Hump by myself, and I had to break trail. Absolutely horrible. I had intentions to do Thomas Cole and Black Dome, but breaking trail for one person is not fun. Let me tell you that. A lot of other times I've just done everything in extreme ice, the Escarpment Trail in extreme ice, North Point, North Mountain, definitely Catterskill High Peak in the ice. I've done a lot of stuff in the winter, so I have a decent overview of what to do, and I always over-prepare, so that's a good thing. Always over-prepare for the winter. So first things first, before you go hiking, check multiple sites, whether it's a weather app on your phone or it's websites online about the weather of what's to come, because everything is just very different at the base of the mountain compared to what's up top. So, like you say, you put in Hunter Mountain, it'll give you Hunter, the town, instead of, the top of Hunter Mountain. Might be 30 degrees at the bottom of the mountain with absolutely no snow, and then at the top it might be massive amounts of snow or ice. It's definitely a crazy difference between the base of the mountain and the top of the mountain. So check out different sites for different weather forecast. I tend to use, for the base of the mountain, I use my weather app, which is called AccuWeather. And then I also go onto this site online that is www.mountain-forecast.com. You can look up any mountains on pretty much everywhere, I believe. But you can look up a lot of mountains in the Catskills and get a overview of what it's going to be like at the top of the mountain and throughout the whole day, actually. Once again, I went on there for a hike the other day, and it said that there was going to be 25 to 35 mile an hour gust, and the wind chill factor would be around like 25 degrees. So once again, I prepared for that, but it wasn't actually that bad. So definitely check it out. Once again, www.mountain-forecast.com. It's a great site for preparing for your winter hike. Another tip, don't go cheap. Cheaper can mean it will not work as good or it breaks faster. I've learned several times that buying stuff at Walmart or the lowest priced items at different places aren't really more reliable. They are okay. Once again, if you're just starting out and you're not going in extreme conditions, they are okay. But I've once again found that different sort of micro spikes are flimsy and stuff like that, and they break easier. Hiking poles, you don't have to really go hardcore with hiking poles. You can go cheap with that because they're just going to break the same as the other ones. But yeah, just don't go too cheap that it's basically something that you're going to buy at the dollar store. Get something reliable and that has great reviews. So once again, do checks up on it. Follow up with research on the items that you're going to purchase because it makes a big difference. Another topic, and I'm going to say this throughout the whole podcast, microspikes. Microspikes. They are extremely important in the Catskills during the winter. Carry them on you whenever the first freeze starts to whenever the last freeze is. They're only 2 pounds, and they're critical. Trust me, they are very critical. You don't have microspikes and you go into a slippy area, you're not going to make it up the mountain, number one. Number two, you might get hurt. So we'll talk about microspikes later on. So what gear is needed to keep you moving safely at a reasonable pace? And that all depends on the terrain and conditions. Some items that you might consider to carry depending on terrain and weather are snowshoes, poles, microspikes, crampons. Definitely maps. Always have maps and GPS, whether that is your phone or an actual GPS system or personal locator radio. And once again, I'm going to get into it again. Carry microspikes on the first freeze to the last freeze. Even when there's a light dust and snow, you should always be wearing your microspikes. Ice is everywhere in the Catskills, and that is the number one reason for search and rescues in the Catskills for the winter. I can't stress of how important it is to have microspikes on you all the time, basically, in the winter. It is critical. Microspikes go from, decent ones are $50, and then the best ones, which to me are Hill Sounds, are like $75. Don't cheap out on those microspikes because they are very important. Don't go buy something at Walmart that looks like pencil lead. That's for walking down your street or down your driveway. Don't do that crap. Go get some Katulas, Hill Sounds. Local store, get them online, whatever. Just definitely don't skimp out on microspikes. They're very, very important. What gear is needed to keep you warm and dry while moving and stopped? Your clothing does definitely be polyester or wool. No cotton. Absolutely no cotton. You should probably carry a winter hat, light gloves, heavy gloves, extra layers of shirts and maybe jackets. Maybe gaiters if you like to wear gaiters and you don't like your knees getting hit with the snow. Waterproof boots or waterproof shoes. Heavy-duty Wiccan socks. That's important, and we'll go into that later. And hand warmers. You definitely need to bring extra clothes in case you're injured or cannot move. You will cool off considerably fast once you stop moving. It's very, very critical that you keep warm when you're not moving. Bring as much as you can because you don't know what's going to happen at the top of the mountain. Once again, I overpack every day of the year. Even in the summers, I bring an extra shirt and extra socks. So we'll definitely go into that. What gear is needed to keep you alive? General items, emergency fire kit. Never know when you're going to need a fire. Keep yourself warm. Rope, maybe to build your own tent or something like that, emergency shelter. Emergency bivy bag or a space blanket. They could save your life. We'll go into a space blanket later on and what happened in 2010 on Blackhead Mountain. And a whistle. Whistle is very, very critical too as well. When they're searching for you either in the summer or the winter, you can't hear them, but if you blow that whistle really hard, they can hear you and then follow that sound. Whistle is got a couple of ounces, so you can just clip it right to your backpack. Construction tape to repair things. You should bring a headlamp anytime you hike throughout the whole damn year. Headlamp is very important. So get a headlamp. Mine is around, I believe, 400 lumens, 300 to 400 lumens, maybe anywhere from $15 to $40. Also a fully charged cell phone, and also maybe a battery, backup battery charger. I always carry them. I actually carry 2 just in case, and a personal locator beacon. That's a personal choice, of course, and they can get expensive. So definitely look into that. All right, so let's get deep little bit deeper into different things. That was just basically like a list. During winter hiking, you must be very aware of your body temperature. It's very critical. And you must regulate it by putting on or taking off clothing to maintain a steady temperature. This is why it's important to bring layers of clothing and wear layers of clothing. Most people don't think about it until your body temperature reaches extreme levels, like if you're way too hot or way too cold. During winter hiking, you cannot wait that long because, unfortunately, it happens a little bit quicker than you think. You might be sweating your butt off climbing up a steep part of the mountain. You'll stop and you'll get cold instantly, almost. Depends on what the weather is like outside, but you'll still get cold. Think about your body temperature constantly and regulate it by adding or taking off clothing. Doing this will also conserve your water level and require the least amount of water to intake. It can be 20 degrees outside and you may be hiking in a light polyester shirt and no gloves to keep yourself from sweating. Or it might be -5 outside and you're wearing extra layers and a shell jacket, and under that you have a puffy jacket. Once again, it all depends on the day and all depends on how you feel. Just keep monitoring your temperature level all the time when you hike. Another thing to think about, again, is microspikes. Microspikes. Very, very important. Hill sounds are the best. Katulas can work. Hill sounds are a little bit longer spikes, and they work better and they last longer. Once again, I was up on Westkill Mountain with a bunch of my 3500 Club friends, and one of my Katulas broke. So we improvised, and what we did was take a small carabiner and clip it to the chain, and it worked. And then on the other side of the mountain, when we were coming down going up St. Anne's Peak, it broke on the other side, on the other foot. So once again, luckily we had small carabiners, and we clipped them on, and it worked for the rest of the hike. So I didn't use those Katulas again, of course. I actually asked them to replace them because they're not that old, and I've used them very, very little, and I stuck with my Hill sounds after that. Microspikes, once again, anywhere range from $50 to $75, and they're only a couple pounds, so critical in winter hiking is microspikes. Carry them on you all the time. Once again, no cotton. Cotton absorbs sweats, makes you colder, and makes it tougher to get warm. Stick with moisture wicking material. Once again, you shouldn't go cheap with that, but I have used moisture wicking shirts from Walmart. I have some from REI, and they're all over the place, but they all work pretty well. I would have to say the more expensive ones probably work better, but I haven't been keeping tabs on that. The moisture wicking material keeps you warmer by wicking off the sweat faster, and they're also lighter. And also think about, once again, extra layers during the winter, like a short sleeve, a long sleeve, shell jacket, windbreaker, rain jacket, puffy jacket. Whatever makes you warmer is better. If you're hiking up and you're sweating your butt off, layer down so you don't get too wet, and then once you stop, you get colder. You don't want to be super warm, but just warm enough to keep the blood flowing through your body. To be honest, even a rain jacket to have over a lot of layers could save your life. A waterproof rain jacket is also kind of like a windbreaker, and it can block the wind, stop the moisture like sleet and snow from getting your other layers wet. Very, very underestimated for the winter is a rain jacket. Some people will go a little bit more expensive and buy a outer shell. I have an outer shell that I got from Helly Hansen that I use, and it's phenomenal, especially in the extreme winter conditions. Blocks that wind and it blocks the cold from getting in. Very, very reliable. It's expensive. It's around the $150 to $300 range, but I definitely have used it multiple times. I've used it with a puffy jacket and several layers underneath. I've used it with just a regular moisture wicking long sleeve t-shirt underneath. So it works very well. So definitely look into an outer shell jacket that's very good, like Arc'teryx, Helly Hansen, anything really. They work well and they keep you from getting cold and might save your life. Let's talk about another really, really important item or apparel that you need is socks. I always carry an extra pair of socks in case my current pair gets wet. Change them when needed or when they get wet. Moisture wicking socks works the best. I've had several different pairs of moisture wicking socks. I find, once again, that the more expensive you go is the better. Also, use wool socks as well. If your socks do get wet, change them and leave them on the outside of the pack. If it's not snowing or raining, they'll dry either quicker or they'll just dry and then you could use them later on. I can't specifically say what kind of socks that I have. I think they're darn tough socks as one of them. I have several different types of socks. I also have Smartwool socks, so darn tough Smartwool. There are several moisture wicking and wool socks out there that you can purchase. Check them out. Use them, see what they feel like with you. Once again, it all depends on your preference and how they feel. Another good thing of apparel is gloves, whether it's full-on winter gloves or easy slip-on gloves. I have both. A light pair when it's semi-cold outside, and then a medium pair for the colder days, and a heavy-duty pair for the extreme conditions. I always carry my light gloves on me, just in case, in the spring, fall, and winter, and my heavy-duty gloves and in the full-on winter, and when I know that there's going to be a crappy forecast or it's going to be extremely cold. My light gloves, I don't know where I got them on. I probably got them on Amazon. No cotton. It's moisture-wicking material. They just slip right on. They zip up. My heavy duty ones, I got Outdoor Research. It has an inner glove that is wool, and it flips over so you can use your fingers on different things. And then it has an outer shell that blocks all the elements and cold. Very awesome. I got those online for like, I think they were $80. Very, very reliable and awesome. I've used them several times. So a big thing to talk about, also a big item to carry, is snowshoes. It's really a personal preference. I've heard several people say they like Tubbs. I heard several people say REI has good ones. To be honest, you gotta go try them on. You gotta use them, and if you like them, of course, keep them. Of course, if you don't like them, return them. Most people have, especially with snowshoes, have a 30-day guarantee. Always ask fellow hikers what they've used. Most people recommend Tubbs, and then you'll get a generalized thought of what you should get. Once again, I don't have a preference. I use my MSR snowshoes, my Evos. They're 25 inches. Very, very reliable so far. I once had a cheap pair and they just kept breaking, so I went and splurged and got a very expensive pair of MSR Evos, and they are fantastic. Very lightweight, awesome attaching to your backpack and stuff like that. And they have super awesome crampons on the bottom that grip up the ice if you need it. So snowshoes, definitely go out there and check out yourself, but also ask around, ask fellow hikers what snowshoes you get. Another thing to maybe carry or maybe have is hiking poles in the winter. They can be expensive. They can go anywhere from $9 to $75, but they can be critical in the winter. The hiking poles keep you balanced at different times, therefore relieving stress on certain muscles, and they also keep you from falling over if you lose your balance and getting wet with the elements in the snow. Hiking poles, once again, it's a personal preference. I've seen people in the winter without them. I use them all the time, basically, because my knees are like an 80-year-old man's knees that has been used hundreds of times. I walk 16 miles a day at work, so my knees are shot. Full-on backpacks. You shouldn't be getting small backpacks because you need to carry a lot more in the winter. So bigger backpacks. I have a 55-liter Osprey. Awesome stuff. I love it. Once again, I over prepare and I always bring extra, but it's good habit to have is to carry extra in case something happens or in case something happens to a fellow hiker. But once again, it's a personal preference. Go to any store and try on different types of backpacks. Don't skimp out. Mostly, I like Osprey. I really do like Osprey because number one, it's a lifetime guarantee. So if something happens, you can send it in and they either will repair or replace it. I also like Osprey because they have several different components in them, like 2 places to hold the water, a bunch of snack areas, upper holding area, lower holding area, straps for everything. So I need to have that stuff for SARS. So definitely go out, try on a lot, make sure it's comfortable, move around, make sure it fits you perfectly and it feels good, because you can't get a crappy backpack that's going to hurt your back. It's definitely not a fun thing, because I've had several. I started off with a 65 liter when I first started hiking, and now I'm down to a 55. So once again, go out there, try out the backpacks. Another critical component that you need, or a critical item that you need for hiking, extra battery charger for phones. Especially nowadays with cell phones. In the winter, the cell phones lose charge a lot quicker when it's colder. A lot of people don't realize how fast your phone's battery will be eaten out when you're in the extreme cold. One of my old phones I used to have, I hiked up Slide Mountain with my friend Jake one time, and I'm guessing it was a good 20 degrees, 30 degrees outside, beautiful day, hiking in the snow, snowshoes, and 3/4 of the way up, my phone died, or was on the verge of dying. So once again, I had my battery, extra battery in the backpack, and I charged it up. I think this battery says it could do over like 200,000 charges, and it is a fast charging battery. So once again, battery charger for cell phones or anything else that you have or that you need to charge up is very, very good to have in the winter. Let's move on to the next one. A headlamp. Less daylight in the winter, so if you get lost, having a headlamp is essential. I carry a headlamp every time I hike. Doesn't matter what time of year, doesn't matter where I'm hiking, doesn't matter the length of the hike. I carry it all the time. So get yourself a decent headlamp with like over 200 lumens. Once again, it could range from $20 to $50 to $75, depending on the brand, but definitely carry them with you. Another thing to possibly carry is a survival kit, which contains like a whistle, fire starting kit, medical tape, duct tape to fix things, and definitely hand warmers. Carry some hand warmers for those times when you're sitting there and you're starting to get really cold. One thing in the survival kit that's very, very helpful is a space blanket. Space blanket is used in extreme conditions and can block the elements and also maintain your heat that is coming off of your body. Back in 2010, 2 hikers went on Blackhead Mountain during the winter and got caught in a huge snowstorm that dumped, I forgot what it said, like 2-3 feet of snow. And I think it was the east side, they slipped and fell, and they realized they can't get out of there. So they built a snow igloo, and one of the hikers put his friend in a space blanket to keep him warm and went out to search for help. And unfortunately, the one who went out and searched for help passed away. Space blanket could save your life. It's not even a pound. It's very small. It could pack up to the size of your fist, even smaller. And the price ranges anywhere from $9 to maybe like $30. Definitely worth it. I carry them on me all the time. Don't know why, but in the summer, I guess, yeah, the extra weight doesn't bother me. So let's get into a little bit different topics and not gear. So let's talk about like nutrition, food, stuff like that. Definitely still need a lot of water in the winter. Try to keep it warm or away from the elements so it doesn't freeze. If you have a bladder, when you take a sip, make sure you blow the water back into the bladder when you're done so it doesn't freeze. I've learned the hard way several times. I've forgotten to blow that water back into the bladder and it's frozen over, and luckily I carry also bottles of water, so I just pour the bladder water into my bottles of water when I was done. But once again, if you have a bladder, make sure when you take a sip to blow that water back into the bladder so the pipe doesn't freeze up. Think about keeping the bladder and water bottles inside the pack to keep it away from the extreme elements, and it also would keep it warm so it doesn't freeze. Another thing to consider is Gatorade. Carry Gatorade or anything that has electrolytes in it. Electrolytes are great for restoring your body's energy and keeping your muscles functioning. I always have a lot of water, to be honest. I have a 3-gallon bladder that I carry, but I usually carry 2 gallons of that, and then I have Gatorade bottle on one side of my pack, and then on the other side I have another water bottle just in case. Once again, carry around 4 gallons of liquid every hike just to be safe. But water is very important. Even in the winter, you might not feel like you need water, but please keep taking water to keep that blood flowing and to keep you hydrated so you don't get all delusional and stuff. Warm liquids, also, you should think about that. A lot of people like to bring tea or coffee on a cold hike. Anything that's warm, when you're slowing down, warm liquids are used to regulate heat. So like you take a stop, you'll start getting cold. Have some of that warm tea or warm water or warm coffee to keep your blood flowing throughout your body. So that is definitely a big help. I carry a massive, oversized coffee jug that I usually make tea in, and it makes a crap load of tea, but it keeps it warm throughout the whole hike and on my way home. So I definitely use that very often now. I used to not use that in the beginning when I first started hiking. I did a lot of stupid things when I was first started hiking in the winter. God, we'll maybe talk about that at the end. But definitely warm liquids to regulate your heat. Food, potassium and protein, definitely. Consume food just like you would during the summer hike, even if you don't feel hungry. Always have snacks throughout the day. The more protein, the better. Protein produces energy, and energy is needed to keep the blood flowing in your body warm. Potassium is very good, which potassium helps out keep you from cramping, and cramping happens faster in the winter. So you need to have some more potassium, like bananas, yogurt, potatoes, stuff like that. So another good thing, once again, protein and potassium for the winter. Keep that energy flowing, keep yourself warm. And that's about it with the nutrition right now. So another good tips is always let someone know where you're going before you go. The weather in the mountains is totally unpredictable in the winter, and it's more deadly than just a thunderstorm or rain in the summer. Once again, you're down below and it's 30 degrees. You're up top and it's maybe 5 degrees. Big difference. 30 degrees is manageable. 5 degrees is unmanageable if you don't have the proper gear. So another big tip, always sign into a registration box. It could save your life. When a person goes missing or a person calls for help, the first thing the ranger does, or the nearby rangers do, is look at all the registration box to see if the person signed in and to see where they're possibly going. It's very simple, and it should never be something you skip. Very easy. Sign in. I know this whole COVID crap that's happening is a little sketchy, but still, signing in could save your life, and it could save somebody else's life as well. So hiking in groups is also good. Hiking alone with breaking trail is a huge bitch. Plus, having another person there if something bad happens is essential. You might be able to survive on your own in the summer, but in the winter, hypothermia takes over a lot quicker. So think about, once again, the conditions. If you have a partner, that's great to help you break trail. You keep the group together. Leave no person behind, ever, even in the summer. Always keep an eye out for anyone in the group and check on each other regularly to see if you're cold or warm or anything that they need help with during the winter. Once again, winter is not to mess with. Another big tip, travel at a speed where you do not produce an excess amount of sweat. The sweater you get, the more difficult it is to get warm again. And you can adjust speed by also adding and subtracting layers of clothing. Once again, you start sweating when you're going up the mountain and you don't take those layers off and start to dry off. Once you get to the top, it's going to be colder, and then you're still going to be cold from all the moisture being on your shirts or on your pants or stuff like that. So make sure when you're going up, if you're sweating a lot, layer down to where you're still comfortable and warm. But once you get up higher and you start slowing down, layer back up. Keep your body warm. It's definitely critical. Try to always carry some sort of GPS or some sort of tracking device. It could save your life in extreme conditions, especially when you get lost or when you get injured in the winter. GPS device is anything from a Garmin to a personal locator beacon to even a cell phone. The cell phones are a little bit unreliable in the winter, especially crappy cell phones who lose their charge faster. So do not rely on cell phones 100%, but anything helps. So if you don't have the money or get a GPS, always have your cell phones, and always track it, because if you're going trudging in deep snow and extreme conditions, that snow could get blown over by a wind gust, or the wind could just make a drift and your tracks are lost. So if you're tracking yourself, you can see where you came from and you can follow your track backwards. So always have a spare battery as well to charge those devices. Once again, batteries range from anywhere from cheap stuff, $25, to good stuff that is waterproof and lasts in the winter, that is up to $75 to $100. Another tip, snowshoes should be a requirement when the snow gets 6 to 8 inches deep. Post-holing through deep snow takes an enormous amount of energy, and the more energy you are using, the more sweat you will be producing, and then when you're sweaty, you're getting wet, and then you're getting colder. If you are day hiking, bring the appropriate size snowshoes for the hike. For general winter hiking, people use 25-inch snowshoes. That's what I have. Some women or lightweight people use smaller snowshoes. For fresh snow, like very deep fresh snow, 30-inch snowshoes are more appropriate. For very, very deep snow, 36-inch snowshoes work best. If you're Jim Bouton, you'll wear the old-time snowshoes that they used in Alaska that are basically the size of a car. If you can only afford one pair of snowshoes, buy the 25-inch ones. Better than nothing. They might be sold out now. It's tough to get snowshoes, but they have rental places all around the Catskills, so check out for rental places. You should always check over your snowshoes before a hike to ensure that nothing is cracked or broken. You don't want them to break while you're on the hike, especially when you're further in on the hike. If you have to go back and forth between snowshoes and microspikes, make sure you have the ability to strap snowshoes to your pack. This could use anything. I use bungee cords to strap my snowshoes to my backpack when I don't use them, and I always carry them as well. So I just use bungee cords, wrap them around some sort of way possible to keep them secure and to keep them from bouncing, so you don't have to carry them. Yeah, so those are some of my tips. Where I'll go over real quick what the most essential things are. Microspikes, definitely essential, especially in the Catskills. Ice is everywhere. Extra layers, keep yourself warm, keep your body heat regulated. Extra socks. The first thing that gets wet in your body is most likely your socks because it's touching the snow or touching the water. So extra socks are very, very important. Gloves, keep your hands warm. Extra food, extra water, a warm beverage, extra battery or battery charger. Those are very essential components in winter hiking. Once again, microspikes, extra layers, extra socks, glove, extra food, water, warm beverage, extra battery or battery charger. Always check your gear before you leave. Layer up in the beginning when you're cold and layer down as you get warmer. And vice versa, when you get colder, start layering up again. And then once you get warmer, you can start layering down. Start as early as possible because there's a short amount of daylight. Stay dry, keep hydrated, protein for energy, and always carry microspikes. Once again, microspikes are essential. So hopefully you have gained some knowledge about winter hiking, and you have any questions, just let me know on Facebook, on Instagram. Please reach out to me, reach out to anybody. Any information from a winter pro person is really, really good. So reach out to me if you need any questions. I'd like to once again thank our sponsor, Scenic Route Guiding, and I'd like to thank Katrina Wearig for her donation to the podcast. If you would like to donate to the podcast, go to itlcatskills.podcastpage.io and look for the Buy Me a Tag coffee at the top, and you can donate 1 coffee, 2 coffees, whatever you want. Or you can go on anchor.fm/Inside the Lines the Catskill and donate on that webpage. But thank you again for listening. Once again, full disclosure, I'm not a pro at this. I've had several experiences though. So use this information as you wish. And once again, thank you for listening to episode number 8 of Inside the Lines of the Catskills. Have a good night.